My sister built her whole brand on being a strong single mom. People called her brave, inspiring, resilient. But while she was sipping wine in Paris and posting selfies with hashtags like #momlife, I was the one raising her kid. Hey there, welcome back to another story. Whatever you're doing right now, grab a drink, get comfy, and get ready, because this one's gonna hit deep. Today's story is about a woman who gave up her own future to raise someone else's child, and got used like a shadow for years. Ever felt like you did all the work and someone else took the credit? Ever been the silent hero in someone else's fairy tale? Then this story might feel a little too real. Stick around to the end, because the way she takes back her power, it's the kind of justice that'll stay with you. And hey, if stories like this speak to you, hit that subscribe button. It helps me keep bringing you real, raw, satisfying tales. Thanks for being here.
Hey there, I'm Lily. I'm 29, I live in Seattle, and I work as a barista and part-time nanny, which is basically adulting on expert mode if you ask me. I love kids, I love coffee, and I'm not ashamed to admit I don't have my life all figured out yet. People who don't really know me tend to label me as a free spirit. But let's be honest, that's just a polite way of saying I didn't turn out like my sister Jessica. Jessica is what happens when your parents' dreams and Pinterest boards come to life. Straight A's, homecoming queen, early acceptance to her dream college, and the kind of wardrobe that somehow always looks effortless. Growing up, it felt like she was the sun our whole family orbited around, while I was the weird little moon spinning quietly in the background, trying not to throw off the tides. When Jessica got pregnant during her senior year of college, the family panicked. I remember my mom sobbing, not because Jessica was scared or hurt, but because, and I quote, "people will talk." Dad was pacing like the stock market had just crashed. It was chaos. But just when I thought they'd finally admit Jessica wasn't perfect, they pivoted, fast. Suddenly, she was brave. She's going to raise a child on her own. She's so strong. She's doing her best. Meanwhile, I was the one holding Leo while Jessica shopped online for designer diaper bags she never actually used. She moved back home for a few weeks to get settled, and that's when she handed me her baby with a laugh and said, "You're great with kids anyway." That moment changed everything. A few weeks turned into a few months, then into few years. Jessica got her degree, traveled to Italy and Bali, launched an online brand, and reinvented herself as this picture-perfect mompreneur on social media. Me? I quietly dropped out of community college and found a nanny job close to home, so I could be there for Leo's feedings, doctor appointments, and bedtime stories. No one ever officially said, "You're now the primary caregiver," but that's what it became. I wasn't just babysitting, I was raising him. And the wild part? No one thanked me, not once. Not my parents, not Jessica. It was like they'd all silently agreed that this was my purpose, to clean up the mess left behind by the favorite child. And honestly, at first, I didn't even resent it. I loved Leo, still do. But I had no idea how deep the lie would go or how far Jessica would take it. And by the time I figured it out, the damage had already been done. But not for long. I wasn't Leo's mom legally. No paperwork said he belonged to me. But emotionally, there was no question. I was the one who knew every weird habit, every freckle, every little signal he gave off when he was about to cry but didn't want to. I was the one who held him through croupy coughs and scraped knees. The one who stood in the rain during his kindergarten field trip when no one else volunteered. Jessica didn't even show up to his first day of school. And yet, if you looked online, according to her perfectly curated Instagram, she was doing it all on her own. There were black and white photos of her holding Leo, always posed, always filtered. She'd write captions like, "Another late night, but wouldn't trade motherhood for anything in the world." What she didn't say was that she wasn't even in the house that night. Because I was the one dragging myself out of bed at 2 a.m. to check on Leo when he cried out. I was the one up early to make oatmeal and pack his lunch. I learned to stretch $1 into a week's worth of meals. I knew exactly which thrift store had the 50-cent book bins because I wanted Leo to grow up surrounded by stories, even if I couldn't afford new ones. Meanwhile, Jessica's life looked glossy. She launched a mompreneur brand, some kind of empowerment coaching thing for women who were doing it all. She started a private blog. Then came the PayPal links, the support a struggling single mom buttons. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she needed help. I mean, raising a kid is expensive, right? But the disconnect kept growing. She started getting boxes from brand deals, baby clothes, kitchen gadgets, luxury face creams. A new MacBook arrived one day. She said it was for her content. Then came the new phone, then the Tesla. All while I was budgeting every penny of my barista paycheck, clipping coupons like it was a sport, and making Leo's Halloween costume from felt scraps and glue sticks. It's wild how easy it is to disappear in someone else's narrative. She posted photos of Leo often. Sometimes I was in the background, blurry, cropped, unnamed. In one picture, I was holding him while he cried. The caption said, "It's not always easy being a solo mom, but love keeps us strong." She wasn't even home when that photo was taken. And still, people online commented with hearts and praise. "You're so inspiring, such strength. Motherhood looks beautiful on you." No one ever questioned it because people want to believe in the image more than the truth. I tried to talk to her once, sat her down at the kitchen table after Leo went to sleep. I didn't even come in angry, just exhausted. I told her I felt stuck, that I missed school, that I didn't even know who I was anymore. "When am I going to get my life back?" I asked. She didn't flinch. She just sipped her tea, stared at her phone, and said, "You'll thank me one day. You're doing something meaningful." That sentence haunts me, as if raising her child while she crafted a fantasy version of motherhood for likes and PayPal donations was some spiritual calling, as if my sacrifices didn't count unless they served her narrative. And my family, they played along. My parents bragged about Jessica's blog to their friends. They never once asked why I looked so tired, why I'd given up school, why Leo called me Mommy Lily instead of just Aunt Lily. I started to wonder if they even noticed anymore, or if they had just silently rewritten reality in their minds so they could keep admiring Jessica without guilt. I should have said something sooner, but part of me didn't want to blow up the family. I didn't want to cause a rift between Leo and the only family he'd known, and I didn't want to be labeled jealous or bitter. But the resentment kept building, quietly, like pressure in a soda bottle that had been shaken one too many times. And then, Leo turned 7, and everything I thought I'd buried came exploding to the surface. Leo turned 7 in March. I still remember the morning. He was at the kitchen table working on a school project about family trees. Crayons everywhere, sticky fingers from the orange slices I cut up for his snack, and he was humming under his breath like he always did when he was focused. He looked up at me with that gap-toothed smile and said, "Mom, how do you spell responsible?" My heart stopped. I didn't correct him. I just told him how to spell it and kept stirring the oatmeal on the stove, pretending my eyes weren't starting to blur. Later that night, when I looked at his project board, I saw it. He had glued photos, one of him and me from a camping trip and another of us reading together. And under the section labeled "My Family," he wrote, "My mom is the best person I know. She takes care of me and makes me feel safe." It hit me like a freight train. All this time, I had told myself that what mattered was Leo's happiness, that it didn't matter if the world never knew the truth, that being his anchor, the quiet support behind the scenes, was enough. But reading those words in his careful, messy handwriting made something inside me shift. I wasn't just helping out anymore. I was his mother, in every way that counted. And Jessica, she had been treating him like a prop in a photo shoot. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying all the times I bit my tongue, the birthdays Jessica didn't attend, the doctor appointments she forgot, the way she used his name to grow her brand while I worked double shifts and counted quarters at the grocery store. Out of habit, I opened her website, her mommy blog. It had always been password protected, exclusive, members-only content for her inner circle of donors and followers. Except, this time she was logged in. She must have borrowed my laptop earlier and forgot to log out. I clicked. What I found made my blood turn to ice. There were photos of Leo, dozens. Some I had taken without realizing they'd be stolen. Some were of me and him together, usually with my face turned or cropped out. The captions were worse than the images. Me and Leo during our darkest season. Hard nights, but we're stronger for it, trying to hold it all together. She was spinning a narrative, not just of single motherhood, but of struggle. She had painted herself as this warrior mom surviving on scraps and love. Meanwhile, she was sipping cocktails on patios, growing her follower count, and cashing in monthly PayPal donations labeled "Support for Leo's Schooling" or "Help a Single Mom Thrive." But Leo's schooling? That was me. I met with his teachers. I packed his lunches. I stayed up helping him with math homework even when my head was pounding from a double shift. My hands were shaking. My throat went dry. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the erasure. She hadn't just lied to the internet, she'd stolen my labor, my love, and turned it into currency for her curated fairy tale. I sat in the dark for hours that night. No Netflix, no music, just silence and rage. I looked at old photos, messages, bank records, all the little breadcrumbs that proved what I had lived through while Jessica pretended to be someone she wasn't. And still, I wasn't sure if I wanted revenge. That's the funny thing about betrayal. Sometimes it doesn't inspire fury right away. Sometimes it just leaves a hollow ache. I thought about Leo, about how he deserved stability, about blowing up Jessica's lie might bring chaos into his life. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. If I stayed silent, the lie would never stop. Jessica would keep cashing in. People would keep sending money to someone who never paid for diapers, never rocked Leo to sleep, never once held his hand at the dentist. And worse, Leo would grow up in a world where the wrong version of reality won. I couldn't let that happen. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't just about me being angry or hurt. It was about truth, about making sure the person who actually did the hard work didn't get erased by someone who posed well on camera. So I made a choice, a quiet, deliberate, life-altering choice. It was time for Jessica to meet the real version of the internet, not the one that cheered her on, but the one that doesn't take kindly to fakes. And I knew exactly where to start. She built her lie online, polished it, curated it, marketed it. So that's exactly where I chose to take it down. The next day, I sat at the kitchen table with my old laptop. The screen had a crack across the corner, and the battery cord had to be held at just the right angle or it would flicker out. It was the same laptop she'd borrowed a dozen times over the years when she needed to upload photos or schedule sponsored content. It remembered her passwords better than I did. And there it was, still logged in. No two-factor authentication, no warnings, just open access to the carefully constructed web of make-believe. I stared at the cursor blinking inside her blog dashboard, my pulse pounding in my ears. This wasn't a moment of rage. It was calm, cold, a type of focus I didn't even know I had in me. I clicked New Post, and I wrote the most honest thing that blog had ever seen. Confession, my perfect single mom life is a lie. Line by line, I dismantled her fiction. I told the truth, that I had raised Leo from the time he was 6 months old, that Jessica wasn't present for the majority of his early life, that while she traveled, built her brand, and took donations meant to support a struggling mom, I was the one budgeting for food, school supplies, and jackets during winter. I included the evidence, screenshots of texts where she thanked me for handling everything, photos of her in Bali, time-stamped the same week she had posted about roughing it alone with a teething toddler. Even her own donation tracker, linked to her private blog, showed thousands of dollars in support that never made its way to Leo. It wasn't written in anger. It was written in precision. Truth isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. I hit publish. And the internet did what the internet does best when it senses blood in the water. Within hours, Reddit caught wind. Someone reposted it to a parenting subreddit. Another shared it on Twitter. It spread like gasoline to flame. By the next morning, Jessica's name was trending in a mommy forum, not for her tips or affirmations, but as an expose on influencer fraud. TikTok creators began making videos dissecting the post, side-by-sides of her curated captions next to the real photos, commentators calling out the deception. Even former sponsors joined the pile-on, announcing they were cutting ties, citing ethical concerns. Then came the Parenting Expo. Jessica had been invited to speak at a panel, Modern Motherhood and Digital Balance. Irony doesn't get thicker than that. Midway through her speech, someone from the audience asked a question, loud and clear. How does it feel to exploit your sister for donations? She froze, and for the first time, the mask slipped. There were whispers, phones lifted, cameras rolling. She tried to laugh it off, pivot the conversation, but the moment was already out there, clipped, shared, viral. Sponsors bailed, donations dried up. One of her larger donors, a nonprofit that supported single parents, issued a public statement condemning manipulative fundraising under false pretenses. And yes, one woman who'd given $1,200 over 2 years, she threatened legal action. Jessica tried to contain it, deleting the blog, locking her socials, issuing an apology post full of vague language and emotional manipulation. She claimed she was just trying to survive and had never meant to hurt anyone. But the damage was done. And what hit her the hardest wasn't just the internet turning, it was our family. My parents, who had spent years defending her, finally had to confront the truth. They cornered me in the kitchen one night, voices hushed but sharp, asking me how I could air family business in public, that I had ruined her life. And I looked them dead in the eye and said, "Funny, that's what I've been asking for the past 7 years." Because no one had said that when I dropped out of school to raise a baby that wasn't mine. No one thought it was family business when I was the one missing out on every opportunity while Jessica got praise for things she didn't even do. Suddenly now, when the golden child's crown had cracked, that was when they wanted to talk about family. But it was too late for guilt trips. I had walked through fire and come out holding the truth. And truth, once exposed, doesn't go quietly back into the dark. Jessica disappeared from the public eye for a while. I heard she was working on a rebrand, whatever that means. Probably something like healing coach or storyteller. She always did know how to pivot. But the thing about a digital footprint, it lingers. People don't forget deception when it's served to them wrapped in a bow and hashtags. And as for me, I didn't get rich off revenge. No book deal, no viral fame. I wasn't looking for that. I just wanted my name back, my life back, and for Leo to grow up knowing that the person who packed his lunches and held his hand through it all wasn't a footnote in someone else's fantasy. She used the internet to build her lie, so I used the truth to burn it down.
After everything unraveled, Jessica did what she always does when caught. She rebranded. She scrubbed her social media accounts, deleted the blog, and put out a long-winded apology that danced around the truth without ever really owning it. There were lots of buzzwords: growth, misunderstanding, pressure of online perfection. Not once did she say my name. Not once did she mention Leo directly. She apologized to anyone who felt misled, like she'd sold a faulty blender, not fabricated years of emotional and financial manipulation. But it didn't matter anymore, because the people who had believed her saw through it now, and more importantly, so did Leo. In the months that followed, things shifted, not all at once, but slowly. Leo stayed with me, and not just because Jessica was in damage control mode. He stayed because it felt right, because I was the one who remembered how he liked his sandwiches cut, because when he had a nightmare, he still came to my room first. Because we had history, real history, not the kind you can Photoshop or hashtag into existence. Jessica made a few attempts at connection, surface-level stuff. She'd drop by with gifts, try to take him to lunch, promise she'd be more present. But kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Leo didn't need a speech or a sit-down talk to understand what had happened. He'd lived it, and no amount of face filters or branded photo shoots could erase the truth from his eyes. One afternoon, we were painting in the backyard, just the two of us, our hands messy with color, and he looked up at me and said, "Mom, can you help me with the blue?" It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't even deliberate. He just said it naturally, like it had always been true. And in that moment, I knew it had. That one word carried years of exhaustion, love, sacrifice, and quiet victories. And I didn't correct him. I didn't flinch. I just handed him the brush and smiled. I wasn't his biological mom. I didn't sign his birth certificate. But I was the one who never left, the one who showed up every day, in the background, in the shadows, holding the structure together while someone else took credit for the lights and decorations. Now, I work at a youth center. It's not glamorous, it doesn't come with brand deals or Instagram fame, but it's real. I help kids like Leo, the ones who've been overlooked, used, or made into props for someone else's story. I teach them how to trust their voice, how to express what they've been through, with art, movement, and sometimes just sitting beside them while they figure out what safety even looks like. Leo thrives there. He loves helping the younger kids. He draws comics about superheroes with messy hair and sneakers who save the day not with powers, but with consistency. I'd like to think he based them on someone he knows. Jessica still circles the edges of our life, mostly for appearances. She shows up to the occasional school event, smiling tight, careful to stay on the right side of the narrative. But the difference now is that she can't write the script anymore. She doesn't control the camera, the captions, or the crowd. And she doesn't control Leo's heart. He knows who was there when it mattered. He knows who held his hand when he was afraid. He knows who made him pancakes on rainy mornings and stayed up all night with him when he had the flu. He knows me. And for the first time in a long time, I know me too. For years, I was cast as the free-spirited babysitter, the backup, the convenient stand-in, the sister who didn't have direction. But now, I'm the one who built a life out of truth, messy, raw, and honest. Jessica may still be trying to pivot, still posting quotes about growth and redemption, hoping to rewrite her brand, but she'll never rewrite me, or Leo, or what really happened. Because the internet might move fast, but once the truth is out, it lingers. It sits in search results and comment threads, it lives in screenshots and saved posts. And more than that, it lives in the people who saw it and said, "Finally, someone said it." I get emails sometimes, quiet ones, from women who've been the invisible caretakers, from sisters who cleaned up the mess while someone else took the credit. They don't want revenge. They just want to be seen, heard, acknowledged. And that's what this story did, not just for me, but for all of us who know what it's like to be essential and invisible. Leo calls me mom now, not auntie, not Lily, just mom. And that simple word is the real reward, the truth beneath the noise, the title I earned without asking for it, by just showing up every day and loving him like he was mine. Because in every way that matters, he is. And Jessica, she can keep trying to rebrand herself, but me and Leo, we're already the real thing.
Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the truth spoken in a voice that finally refuses to whisper. And when it lands, it shakes everything.
If you've ever watched someone lie their way to the top and dreamed of bringing them back to earth, smash that like button. Comment your thoughts and subscribe for more stories where justice isn't just served, it's earned. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? I want to hear it.